Beyond Yes, a story of saying no and setting boundaries. Clara Bennett felt frazzled already at 8:15, sitting at a stoplight in her car on the way to drop her son Evan off at school. Next to him in the back seat was a box of 25 chocolate cupcakes, each decorated with a blue frosting of Potosaurus on top. Her friend Miranda, whose son was in Evan's class, had called just 12 hours prior, saying breathlessly, "I just ran to the market to get the cupcakes for Paul's classroom birthday party tomorrow, and they were all sold out. Can you help me? You know the school does not allow home-baked treats anymore." Clara had responded, "Tomorrow morning? This is very last minute." Miranda laughed lightly. "Oh, you're a baking wonder. I'm sure you can pull it off." In the end, Clara had said yes. She always did. Just before hanging up, Miranda had added, "By the way, Paul is really into dinosaurs right now. Can you make them into dino cupcakes?" Perhaps because Clara owned a bakery, Miranda assumed she always had cupcakes ready to go. But it didn't work like that. Orders were made fresh. Always. That evening, by the time the bedtime routine was over, Clara had been too tired to tackle the cupcake order, which meant that this morning she had been rushing about her ground-floor bakery underneath the family home since 4, trying to get 30 cupcakes baked, cooled, and decorated, all on top of the usual morning rush of getting her own child up, dressed, fed, and organized for his day at school. Clara pulled into the parking space in front of the school and exhaled through clenched teeth. Then, taking a deep breath, she put a bright smile on her face and got her chattering second grader out of the car and hustled him into the building just before the bell rang. Miranda was there waiting for her, arms outstretched to receive the box of cupcakes. She peeked under the box lid and let out a squeal of delight. "They're perfect," she gushed. "I will stop by the shop later and settle accounts." After kissing Evan goodbye, Clara turned to leave, almost bumping into Rochelle, the PTO president. "Clara, just the lady I was looking for. Would you please drop this order form and check at the printers next to your shop for the posters for the school carnival? Thanks. You're the best." The envelope was shoved into Clara's hand, and Rochelle was off before Clara had a chance to respond. The print shop was right next to her bakery, but Mrs. Augusta, who ran the business, loved to talk. It was never a quick errand to enter her shop, which Rochelle undoubtedly knew, and Clara had so many orders to fill that morning in her bakery, as well as needing to restock the cookie trays in the shop's display cases. Arriving back on her own block, Clara got out of her car, squaring her shoulders with resolve. She would be friendly but firm about not having time to visit. At least that was her plan, until she opened the door to Riverside Print Shop to find Mrs. Augusta in a tizzy. "Oh, Clara," she exclaimed as the bell above the door jangled. "Am I glad to see you. I'm beside myself not knowing what to do. My daughter just called me saying the school informed her that Nellie is sick in the nurse's office with a fever of 104 and her asthma is acting up. Jane is with a client in court and cannot leave. I have to pick up Nellie and take her to urgent care, but my friend Mark is coming here in the next 20 minutes to drop off that dog of his that I promised to take care of on his way to the airport." All of this had been explained in rapid-fire speech as Mrs. Augusta paced, close to hyperventilating. Suddenly, she stopped mid-stride and fixed her piercing green eyes on Clara. "Would you be able to wait here for Mark to drop off Bowser and keep him until I get back? Oh, please say yes." "I wish I could help, but I'm so busy today," Clara began. But then she saw the anxious elderly woman's eyes begin to well up. And then, of course, Clara found herself saying yes. "Oh, never mind. I will handle it." But even as Mrs. Augusta's respirations returned to a more normal pace, Clara felt her own anxiety climbing. What was she going to do with the strange dog when she had so much to do already in the bakery? Mrs. Augusta took Rochelle's order from Clara, called Mark to explain the change in plans, and Clara found herself waiting on the bench in front of the bakery for the arrival of Bowser. Mark pulled up just a few minutes later, offloading food, a few pages of printed instructions, balls, bed, toys, and a very large and excited Bowser on a leash. Don't worry, I will make sure he gets safely into the hands of Mrs. Augusta when she comes back, Clara found herself saying as Mark rushed off to catch his flight. As the car pulled away, Clara looked down at the wriggling, fluffy, black Newfoundland German Shepherd mix half-grown puppy. What was she going to do with Bowser now? Health ordinances would not permit her to have him in the bakery with her as she baked. Clara unlocked the door at the bottom of the stairway leading up to the family's home above the bakery. Too bad this wasn't a Saturday. Evan would have loved to help keep the puppy entertained. Clara hoped the dog would settle down for a nap quickly so she could get back to the bakery. She looked around the living room, realizing how puffy-proofed her home wasn't. She wished she had a key to Mrs. Augusta's shop next door. There was little that Bowser could harm in the tiled space in front of the counter. Oh well, she would just have to make the best of the current situation. As the dog ran from one side of the living room on the second floor to the other, sniffing everything, Clara began to pull out ingredients in her kitchen. She would save time later in the day by prepping dinner now. She might not be able to bake for clients while watching the dog, but her family was another matter. She opted for a cold supper as the day was warm, and it would also mean no reheating necessary. Egg salad and croissants would be perfect. She set the water to boil and added the eggs. While they were cooking, she began to dice red onions, celery, and fresh dill. She transferred the now boiled eggs to a bowl of ice water and began to peel them. Meanwhile, Bowser kept hitting her knee with his paw, hoping for a treat. Eventually, he gave up and wandered back to the living room. While peeling the 10th and final egg, Clara realized she had not heard anything in far too long. She turned and looked around the back of the sofa to find Bowser quietly but happily pulling stuffing from a hole he had chewed in the throw cushion. "No!" Clara gasped in exasperation. She led Bowser by the collar to the bathroom, where she quickly tossed the shower curtain up over the bar, removed the bath mat and all the towels, throwing them in a heap in the hallway. She grabbed a box and pushed everything on the counter into it before putting the box into the cabinet under the sink, closing the door behind her as she ran to the living room to get Bowser's bed and a few toys. These she brought back to the bathroom. "I'm sorry, Bowser, but I absolutely must get things done, and I can't have you trashing my house." And with that, she firmly shut the door. Back in the kitchen, she quickly threw all of the ingredients for the egg salad into a bowl, adding spices and condiments before giving a quick, vigorous stir. She'd have to bring croissants up from the bakery later and maybe cut some fruit. For now, she covered the bowl and shoved it into the fridge. Bowser began to howl as Clara took the stairs 2 at a time down to the bakery. Glancing at the clock, she saw that it was already after 10 o'clock, and she had not even begun today's baking. Clara's mother, who had been filling in behind the counter, looked up, taking in her harried and slightly disheveled daughter. She said only a single word, "Sit," while gesturing to the nearest cafe table. Clara replied, "Mom, I don't have time." "Sit." It was a command. Clara sat. Her mother brought her a cup of coffee and a blueberry muffin. Clara suddenly realized she had never eaten anything for breakfast that morning. Sitting in the quiet of the shop, empty but for the mother and the daughter, they could hear the plaintive howling of Bowser on the floor above. Beth raised an eyebrow quizzically. "Why don't you tell me about what's going on?" Clara gave a quick recap of all the unexpected responsibilities that had landed in her lap, and finished with the extensive list of all the work items she had on her own plate that she had not even been able to start. Her mother listened without interruption. When Clara came to an end of her litany, Beth reached across the table and took her hand. "The thing with you, Clara, is that you always say yes, and everybody knows it. It's okay to say no from time to time. If Miranda's son is disappointed that his mother brings something other than cupcakes for his class birthday, she'll be more motivated to plan ahead with placing an order on time next year. You know your policy is that orders are to be placed 2 days ahead of time. What is a policy for if you continually make exceptions? You may have been heading right next door to the print shop, but it would not hurt Rochelle to go 5 blocks out of her way to do what she signed up for when she asked to lead the PTO. And Mrs. Augusta? Well, yes, she truly needed help, but you would be in a better state to help her if you weren't already running ragged for those other people. She could have come and found you next door, or perhaps she would have found somebody else if you hadn't already been in her shop. Clara sighed. Yeah, I know you're right, Mom. I just hate to let people down. I know. You've always been this way. Beth chuckled. Do you remember how much trouble you got in for letting Billy Simpson copy from your math test in the 6th grade? Learning how to set boundaries is a skill that takes practice. Would you like help with this? Like an accountability partner? It doesn't have to be me, but I'm here for you if you want me to do this with you. Clara looked at her mom. You're always there for me, Mom. Thank you. She gave her mother's hand a quick squeeze. I have something that might help you get started. Give me a moment to run out to my car. 5 minutes later, Beth was back with a box of dropper bottles. She rummaged around, reading labels until she landed on the right one. Ah, here it is. Centaury. This flower essence will help as you practice evaluating what to say yes or no to, and it will help you have the resolve to deliver the no's when they are necessary. My neighbor introduced me to flower essences a few years ago, and I found them so helpful. Remember how fatigued I was after my hysterectomy? It was just taking me forever to recover and get my pep back. Cynthia suggested I take olive flower essence, and I really felt it made a difference. I decided to get a whole set and read about them so I would be prepared for situations like this one. Clara took the dropper and put a drop in her mouth before capping the bottle and slipping it into her pocket. Just then, Bowser began alternating his howling with frantic barking. Clara looked up at the ceiling, feeling bad that she had not given the pup more attention. All of this must be frightening for the young dog. Beth read her mind. He's going to be okay. I will take him out for a walk while you get started on Mrs. Robinson's order. When I get back, I will mix up the ginger snap and the double chocolate chip cookie dough before I leave. You're the best, Clara said. The leash is hanging over the back of the sofa. Clara put on an apron, set her plate and mug in the sink, and washed her hands. As she headed for the pantry in the back of the kitchen to gather the ingredients for the Robinson order, the bell above the door alerted her to Miranda striding into the shop. Hey, Clara, I'm here to pay for the cupcakes. Clara greeted her friend and told her the amount owed. As the cash register drawer opened, Miranda breezily said, You wouldn't mind picking up Paul along with Evan today, would you? I want to run to the party supply store to pick up what we need for his party on Saturday. Through the plate glass bakery window, Clara could see her mother crossing the street with Bowser pulling on his leash. Reaching in her pocket, she felt a little bottle of Centaury Flower Essence. Clara cleared her throat and said, Sorry, Miranda. I'm swamped today. Miranda looked up, surprised. Clearly, this was not the response she had expected. But surely Paul can help keep Evan occupied while you do whatever it is. Clara took a deep breath. Miranda, I said no, not today. Oh, well, it doesn't seem like such a big thing to ask, but, okay then, I'll find someone else. Miranda's voice had suddenly become much colder, and with that Miranda left the shop. Clara almost called her back and gave in, but instead shook her head. She realized if the roles were reversed, she could never see herself behaving the way Miranda was accustomed to with her friends. And with a half smile of determination on her lips, she turned back to the pantry. She knew both she and Miranda were going to have to do some getting used to Clara's new resolve not to be a doormat. The afternoon flew by as Clara worked preparing the list of special orders. Customers came and went. New orders came in online and over the phone. Beth picked up Evan from school after making cookie dough so that Clara could stay focused. Mrs. Augusta came by mid-afternoon to collect Bowser, who is once again howling in the bathroom upstairs. The bakery felt much more peaceful without his serenade of distress. She later texted Clara a picture of Bowser with a pink-cheeked Nellie asleep together on her sofa. Thank you so much for your help today, she wrote. I don't know what I would have done without you. That evening, Clara wolfed down her egg salad croissant and left her husband and son to a more leisurely dinner as she returned to the bakery to continue mixing, baking, and washing up, just to begin again on the next order. But by Evan's bedtime, she gave the counters a last wipe, hung up her apron, and locked the bakery door behind her. She slid into bed beside Evan, who began animatedly rattling off the events of his day. When he tried getting out of bed so that he could use his full body to reenact his glorious moment in dodgeball during gym class, Clara told him it would need to wait until tomorrow. "But, Mom, I hardly got to see you at all today. You didn't pick me up from school, and you didn't even eat dinner with us." Clara looked her boy in the eyes and held both of his hands. "I know. I missed you too. I'm sorry I was so busy today. I promise I will make time for you tomorrow. But now it is getting late, and I am tired. If I don't start reading now, all you're going to hear about Ralph is his snoring." This made Evan giggle, and he climbed back into bed. Giving his shoulder a squeeze, Clara opened The Mouse and the Motorcycle to the chapter where they had left off the night before. She let out a sigh of contentment as Evan snuggled up, his damp hair still smelling of baby shampoo, and began to read. 2 chapters and a goodnight kiss later, she left Evan already half asleep, still clutching his favorite minifig. She found her husband in the living room, his nose in a book of his own. He looked at her over his reading glasses as she entered the room. "Busy day?" "The busiest," she responded, giving him the Cliff Notes version. "But I got through it. I know I need to set better boundaries with people. I'm going to be working on that. My mom is going to help keep me accountable. And I have the Centaury Flower Essence drops to help me find my balance in caring for others without forgetting about caring for myself." Brandon smiled. "That sounds good." He disappeared into the kitchen for a few minutes, bringing back a steaming cup of spicy, sweet golden milk. Clara felt the last of the day's tension fade away as she sipped her drink and wrote about her new resolutions in her journal before heading to bed. And maybe that's the quiet magic of Centaury. It doesn't harden our hearts or close the door to kindness. It simply helps us to find the strength to stand tall, to offer help when it's truly ours to give, and to say no when our cup is already empty. For Clara, it wasn't about being less generous. It was about remembering that her own well-being mattered too. If you've ever found yourself saying yes when every part of you wanted to say no, you're in good company. So many of us learn, often the hard way, that caring for others and caring for ourselves aren't opposites, they're partners. When we learn to set healthy boundaries, we create more room for genuine kindness, not less. Thank you so much for sharing this story time with me. If you enjoyed Clara's journey, don't forget to subscribe for more cozy tales like this one. Little reminders that growth can be gentle, and I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had a Centaury moment? A time when you finally drew the line or learned to say no with grace? Share your story in the comments. We're all learning together, one mindful choice at a time.